You're now watching Qnews. Here are the top stories for this hour. EU Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas, has stated that the European Union sees the Palestinian Authority as best placed to govern Gaza. After a meeting with the Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Mustafa during a visit to Ramallah in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, Kallas told reporters at a joint news conference that the EU condemns the resumption of war in Gaza and supports a return to the ceasefire. Addressing the situation in the West Bank, Kallas added that settler violence and new settlements under construction are undermining the prospect of a two-state solution, which she called the only path to sustainable peace. The Israeli airstrikes have targeted a tent housing displaced families in western Khan Yunis in Gaza, killing 3 Palestinians and injuring others, mostly children. Earlier airstrikes on a home in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza resulted in the deaths of 3 more, including a child, and injured 10 others. The death toll from ongoing strikes since Monday morning has surpassed 60. The United Nations has decided to scale back its operations in Gaza following deadly Israeli airstrikes that killed hundreds of civilians, including UN personnel. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric stressed that while the UN remains in Gaza, it faces growing risks as aid remains blocked since early March. An Israeli tank shell hit a UN compound in Deir al-Balah on March 19th, killing a Bulgarian staff member and injuring 6 others. The UN condemned the attack urged an independent investigation and renewed calls for a ceasefire and hostage release. Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for global pressure to end the conflict and protect civilians. Egypt has strongly condemned Israel's announcement of a new agency aimed at displacing Palestinians from Gaza and its approval of 13 new settlements in the occupied West Bank. In a statement, the Egyptian Foreign Ministry rejected Israel's claim of voluntary departure, calling it forced displacement and a violation of international law. Cairo urged the international community and the UN Security Council to take firm action to uphold Palestinian rights and enforce international legitimacy. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has condemned the establishment by the Israeli occupation of an agency to steer the displacement of Palestinians and the approval of a plan to separate 13 settlement outposts in the West Bank. Saudi Arabia condemned Israel's plan to oversee Palestinian displacement from Gaza and legalize 13 Jewish-only settlements in the West Bank. The Foreign Ministry reaffirmed its rejection of Israel's violations of international law and stressed that lasting peace requires recognizing Palestinian rights, including an independent state on the 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. And moving on to Yemen, where the Houthi group has claimed a series of missile and drone attacks targeting the Ben Gurion airport in Israel and U.S. warships in the Red Sea. In a televised statement, the group's military spokesman Yahya Saria claimed that the group's missile force successfully targeted Ben Gurion airport in Tel Aviv with 2 ballistic missiles. One of the missiles was identified as the Dhul-Faqar, while the other was a Palestinian 2 hypersonic missile. Syria added that the operation lasted several hours and disrupted an aerial attack that the U.S. military was allegedly preparing against Yemen. The U.S. military has launched a series of intense airstrikes on Yemen's northern Saada province. According to the Houthi media, a total of 12 airstrikes were carried out, now targeting the city of Saada and its surroundings, while 3 hit the districts of Saqin, Qitaf and Sahar. The U.S. Central Command CENTCOM posted a video on X showing fighter jets taking off from a runway. The post, published in the early hours of the morning, followed reports from Yemeni media of renewed U.S. attacks on Sada province. The American strikes aimed at countering threats to maritime trade in Israel have now entered their 10th day with no signs of stopping. The White House has stated that top Trump administration officials mistakenly disclosed war plans in a messaging group that included a journalist shortly before the United States attacked Yemen's Houthis. The Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg reported that he was unexpectedly invited to an encrypted chat group on the Signal messaging app called the Houthi PC Small Group. In the group, National Security Advisor Malk Waltz tasked his deputy Alex Wong with setting up a Tiger team to coordinate U.S. action against the Houthis. Goldberg added that hours before the attacks on the Houthis on March 15th started, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted operational details about the plan in the messaging group. China has firmly opposed a move by the United States to penalize countries that buy oil and gas from Venezuela with tariffs on trades with the U.S. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said the United States should stop interfering in Venezuela's internal affairs and abolish the illegal unilateral sanctions on Venezuela. U.S. President Donald Trump issued an executive order declaring that any country buying oil or gas from Venezuela will pay a 25% tariff on trades with the U.S., while his administration extended a deadline for U.S. producer Chevron to wind down operations in the South American country. This concludes our top stories for this hour. Many thanks for watching and goodbye.